Hello and welcome to Tomorrow's America. My name is William Donahue. Today we're going to be talking about the Iran war again and Israel and all that. The events of the past 3 days since we did our last show. I'm also going to play a Chat GPT interview that I recorded earlier, and it's kind of dry, it's kind of boring or whatever, but it's very informative. And basically, what I was asking ChatGPT is about eschatology, which is the study of the end times, and specifically how certain religious groups, specifically Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, relate this is Islam or Iran-Israel war to the end times. So I asked it some questions. It brought up uh, Jewish beliefs, Zionist Jewish beliefs specifically, because there's different sects that have different beliefs about building the third temple and the red heifers, evangelical dispensational beliefs about uh, building the third temple to preserve Judaism into the end times, to bring on the second coming of Jesus, and some Shia Islamic believers also believe in eschatology related to this war. I didn't really get into it too much with ChatGPT about the Islamic part. One, because I don't really know that much about their end times beliefs, and also because it said that a lot of their preachers or whatever you'd call it, their religious leaders, try to avoid relating current events to end times prophecy because in their faith they say that you don't know when the end times are going to come, which should be also a Christian belief, but some Christian sects tend to think that they can force the day and the hour. Like Jesus said, no man knows the hour when you know, uh, when he's going to come back again. Some Christians believe that they can act in a certain way on the earth and trigger and accelerate the end times to come. So that was a pretty interesting question that I had with ChatGPT. Before that, I'll give you a little basic breakdown about what's happened over the past couple days, and then I'll go to that video. But before we do all that, please like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and spread the word about this show. Help us get the information out there to people. That's the main goal of the show, is just to reach people, not to make money, not to sway people any certain way, just to pass along mine and Richard's beliefs, and to, show people maybe a differing viewpoint. So, in the past 3 days of the Iran Israel conflict, the U.S. Central Command announced it destroyed 16 Iranian mine laying vessels near the Strait of Hormuz. Around 150 service members have been wounded, with 8 remaining severely injured. This is coming from ChatGPT. So, the U.S. Israeli airstrikes have also significantly degraded Iran's missile and drone capabilities. Meanwhile, Iranian officials claim over 13,000 deaths and 10,000 civilian infrastructure sites hit, while the UN has warned Iran might be preparing to lay naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz, raising global supply chain concerns. Also, Ali Khamenei, the son of the previous, oh no, Ali Khamenei's son, and I can't pronounce his name. It's like Mojtaba Khamenei. So the Ali Khamenei was killed in a U.S. or in an Israeli airstrike, and then now there's reports that his son was also killed in the airstrike after the U.S. decided that they didn't want, or that U.S. and Israel decided that they didn't want him to be the supreme leader of Iran. And I'm going to use those words just before the show, and for past shows also. I'm going to use the words U.S. Or the United States and Israel synonymously because one, they are very intertwined with each other politically, and two, because anything that one country does, the other country has a hand in, and even if Israel struck them, we supplied them the munitions. So I'm going to use those words synonymously throughout the show. So, our ChatGPT interview. This was, like I said, kind of dry, but a pretty cool interview, and I hope that you guys enjoy it, and I'll be back soon. So I'm going to be doing another interview with ChatGPT. If you didn't see my other interview with ChatGPT, it is down somewhere in the YouTube page, and it was pretty interesting. Today's interview is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be talking about religion, eschatology, and how it pertains to this Iran war that's going on. Pretty interesting because all three sides, being Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, have an eschatological view of how this war pertains to the end times and the coming of the Messiah, the coming of Jesus, or the coming of the Islamic prophet, which I don't know too much about. So that should be interesting when we get to the Islamic part of the interview. But basically, I'm just going to be asking ChatGPT some questions I have, and we'll see what it says. Hello.
You're ready to whatever. Just let me know what you're thinking about or if you have any questions.
Yes. Today I'm going to be interviewing you, and I'm going to be asking you about this war that's going on between Israel, the United States, and Iran. And I'm going to be asking you specifically about how it pertains to eschatology and the end times and religion from the perspective of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
That sounds like a really rich topic. I'm ready to dive in. So, just to orient us, is there a particular aspect or moment in the conflict you'd like to focus on first? Or would you like a broader overview of how these faiths interpret war in the end times?
Give me a broad overview where you summarize each of the three different beliefs and how it would pertain to this war in the Middle East.
Absolutely. So, in a broad sense, all three faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, have rich eschatological traditions. In Judaism, end times thinking is less defined, but often revolves around a future messianic age, sometimes tied to the ingathering of exiled Jews to the land of Israel. Christianity, especially certain streams like dispensationalism, often sees modern conflicts as potential precursors to the apocalypse, the return of Christ, or the Battle of Armageddon. In Islam, eschatology is tied closely to the Day of Judgment, Yawm al-Qiyamah, and there are prophetic traditions about conflicts in the region, sometimes involving Iran or other powers before the final resurrection. So each tradition interprets events differently, but all see kind of divine reckoning tied to these political.
Okay, so specifically, what do the Christians, the Jews, and the Islamics believe is related to the end times when it comes to this war in the Middle East? Specifically, the Dome of the Rock, third
Yeah.
the third temple and everything.
Absolutely. So, this is a major touchstone in each tradition. For Christians, especially in certain dispensationalist or evangelical circles, many believe that the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem is a key sign before the second coming of Christ. So, if the Dome of the Rock were to be affected or even replaced, many see it as a trigger event for the end times. In Judaism, the idea of rebuilding the Third Temple is also deeply important. Many Jews see it as a central hope in messianic expectation, though it's also a sensitive subject given the current political reality of the Dome of the Rock sitting on that site. In Islam, the Dome of the Rock is one of the holiest sites. Muslims revere it as the place from which the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. So, for many Muslims, any threat to it is seen as profound spiritual and existential crisis. And they also look toward a future reckoning, but not necessarily tied to a specific temple being rebuilt. So, in short, the site is a flashpoint that means different things in each tradition, but all see it as a potential hinge for end time scenarios.
There's a lot of groups right now, specifically evangelical Christians in America, Zionists all over the world, and I guess Shiite Muslims. Can you describe to me what the political leaders and religious leaders of those countries are saying about the war in Iran today, as it relates to eschatology?
Right now, there's a really strong like Robert Jeffress and John Hagee are framing the Iran Israel conflict in apocalyptic terms, seeing Iran as a threat that ties into biblical prophecy and the return of Christ. Seeing Israel's survival as central. Meanwhile, Iran's Shia leaders view the conflict through the lens of messianic belief, seeing chaos and struggle as paving the way for the Mahdi's return.
Okay. What about Zionism makes what about all right, so let's start with Christianity. What do they believe about the conflict? And separate it into maybe evangelicals and Zionists, and then what do Orthodox and Catholics believe? And what is the difference as it relates to Iran? This is kind of a big topic. It's got a search, and we're gonna go through this.
Now within Christianity,
We go through this the whole time, I guess. But see, all three groups have different beliefs about the end times.
views on the Iran-Israel conflict differ widely. Evangelicals and Christian Zionists often see it through a prophetic lens, believing Iran's role as part of end-time scripture, especially tied to Israel's survival. In contrast, Catholic, Orthodox, and many mainline Protestants do not link current events to prophecy. Instead, they focus on peace, ethics, and human rights.
So, is it true that the White House in the United States and military leaders are making references towards this being an end times thing and really highlighting that as one of our needs to go fight in Iran?
And
It doesn't matter what he says, but he's going to say yes. But yes, they are. Military
there have been
leaders.
reports that some U.S. military commanders, not the White House itself, have used end times language to describe the conflict with Iran, claiming it was part of God's divine plan. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation reported that between 100 and 200 service members complained, and a group of 27 congressional members requested an investigation into whether this violates church state separation. However, there's no confirmed direct White House statement tying the war to biblical prophecy.
So, Jesus in the Bible says that he is the temple, and the temple was destroyed after his passing. So the Christian belief is that Jesus tore down the temple and became the temple, and that the our bodies are a temple, and God can interface with us through the Holy Spirit in the temple that is our body. So is it kind of contradictory that the evangelical groups and dispensationalists think that rebuilding the third temple is necessary?
Yeah, that's a really insightful tension. In many strands of mainstream Christian theology, especially from a Pauline perspective, Jesus is seen as the fulfillment of the temple, and believers themselves become temples. For many evangelicals and mainline Christians, the idea of a literal physical third temple isn't theologically necessary, and can even be seen as a distraction. But for dispensationalists, they often interpret prophecy more literally, so they see the rebuilding of the temple as a sign of the end times.
Hmm.
So, from a traditional Christian perspective,
So our
theological lens you're using.
yeah, or Catholics and Orthodox, what the evangelicals are promoting is almost like accelerating the bringing on of the Antichrist. Is that correct?
In Catholic and Orthodox Christianity, the rebuilding of a third temple is a central doctrine and is not required for end times theology. Catholics generally see the church itself as the new temple, and both traditions emphasize a more symbolic or spiritual approach to the Antichrist, rather than tying him to a literal temple or geopolitical events. In contrast, many evangelical dispensationalists do see a third temple as central, and they often link it to the rise of the Antichrist, which the Catholic and Orthodox churches view as speculative and
Okay. So in the evangelical viewpoint, does the bringing on of the third temple, they think that that brings back Jesus?
In many evangelical circles, especially those tied to dispensationalism, there's a belief that a rebuilt third temple in Jerusalem is necessary before Jesus returns.
Okay, so they believe that necessary for. Doesn't the Antichrist, in their viewpoint, operate out of the third temple for a time before Jesus comes?
Yes, in many evangelical circles, especially those influenced by dispensationalism, they believe a physical third temple must be rebuilt in Jerusalem before Jesus returns. In this view, the Antichrist will operate from that temple, bringing about the abomination of desolation, and this event triggers the end times leading up to Christ's return. However, this is not a universal evangelical belief. Many other Christians interpret these prophecies symbolically, not literally.
So, my question is, if the evangelicals are trying to force the issue or promoting that the third temple should be rebuilt, are they not being accelerationist by pushing for this to try and tempt God or tell God or act for God to create this temple and trigger the Antichrist to come back?
Yes, some evangelicals do engage in what's called eschatological accelerationism, especially in dispensationalist circles. They believe that rebuilding the third temple in Jerusalem is necessary before the return of Jesus, and they also think the Antichrist will operate from that temple. In this sense, they see modern events, especially in the Middle East, as setting the stage for these prophecies to unfold, which some critics argue is an attempt to force or accelerate God's time.
Okay, so now that that's said, let's switch gears to Judaism. what are some of the Jewish groups' beliefs about this war as it relates to the end times? And what is the difference between those groups?
In Judaism, end times ideas often center on the Messianic era. When the Messiah arrives, resurrection happens, and peace reigns. But not every war in the Middle East is seen as a direct sign of the end. While some traditional Jewish texts, like Ezekiel's prophecy, mention a final
I know, but I'm talking about the rebuilding of the temple. I'm talking about the red heifers. I'm talking about the foundation stone where the Dome of the Rock is built right now. Which groups believe that this war in Iran is going to help them to build this temple?
Some Jewish groups, like some small fringe Jewish groups, like the Temple Institute, are trying to breed a red heifer and rebuild the third temple on the Temple Mount, which some interpret as a step toward Messianic times. However, these ideas are largely considered fringe and not part of mainstream Jewish theology. A few nationalist groups speculate that a war, like a conflict with Iran, could serve as a catalyst for these temple building efforts, but this is still a speculative and politicized view, not a mainstream religious stance.
So, is it true that Benjamin Netanyahu compared the Iranians to Abimelech and or Amalek, and said that they needed to treat the situation like their ancestors treated Amalek?
Benjamin Netanyahu recently compared Iran to the biblical enemy Amalek in a speech on March 2nd, 2026, at a site hit by an Iranian missile. He invoked the biblical command to remember what Amalek did and said, "We remember and we act." This framing cast Iran not just as a geopolitical rival, but as a profound existential evil, sparking both criticism and debate.
So, also, the date that the initial strikes were done on Iran, those were on a Jewish religious holiday, correct?
Yes, it's true.
I don't know why it keeps doing this.
The initial airstrikes on Iran reportedly began on February 28th, 2026, which was the eve of the Jewish holiday Purim. Purim itself started on the evening of March 2nd and continued through March 3rd, making the timing symbolically significant in Jewish Israeli commentary.
And Purim is a holiday that celebrates when Jewish tribes in the past went and defeated the Persians, correct?
Exactly, yes. Purim commemorates the events in the Book of Esther, where the Jewish people in Persia were saved from a plot by Haman, a Persian official.
So is it fair to say, now you said that fringe Jewish groups believe in this eschatology, right? Is it fair to say that if the leader of Israel is literally um, invoking end times prophecies and Bible verses, that they view this war as a religious war?
Benjamin Netanyahu, in a speech on March 2nd, 2026, drew a parallel between Iran and the biblical enemy Amalek, saying, "We remember what Amalek did to you. We remember and we act." While he didn't explicitly call it an end times prophecy, he used strong biblical imagery, framing Iran as a moral and existential threat. Analysts have noted that this rhetoric, while not a direct prophecy, uses religious language that risks framing the conflict as a religious war.
Okay, so the temple, okay, somebody tried to rebuild it before, right? His name was Julian the Apostate. Tell me the story of Julian the Apostate's motivation, plan, failure, and outcome of trying to rebuild the third temple. Um,
Julian the Apostate, who became Roman Emperor in 361 CE, tried to rebuild the Jewish temple in Jerusalem as part of a broader effort to revive paganism and challenge Christianity. He authorized the project, but it never succeeded. There's no solid archaeological evidence of major construction, and after his death in 363 CE, his successor canceled the plans.
what did the builders? Oops. What did the builders? Why was the build?
Julian the Apostate did authorize a plan to rebuild the Jewish temple in Jerusalem around 361 CE, but the project ultimately failed. Key reasons included natural disasters like an earthquake and fire, his death during a Persian campaign in 363 CE, and a shift in politics, as his successor reversed the decision. Additionally, some Jewish leaders were wary of relying on pagan emperor, and so the project never advanced beyond initial steps.
So the story goes that they went in to build the temple, and the builders they started construction, and that there was earthquakes, there was fire, there was all kinds of things, and they literally couldn't work there. They couldn't go to the site and start building because of continuous natural disasters. It wasn't allowed to be built at that time by whatever forces. Obviously, we believe in God. He might have had a hand in that. But they were not able to rebuild the temple. And then he died shortly after the failure of this and giving up on building it. Oh, so what do Islamic faiths, specifically Shiite Muslims, believe about this war in Iran today and how it relates to the end times? I don't know anything about this, so
Shia Islam.
we're learning together. And I knew it was going to do that.
In Shia Islam, especially among Twelver Shiites, the key belief is that the 12th Imam, Muhammad al-Mahdi, is in a cultication and will return at the end of time to establish justice. While martyrdom and struggle are important in Shia tradition, mainstream clerics are careful not to link specific wars to the immediate return of Christ. Although some see Iran's stance against Israel as tied to eschatology, official Shia teachings remain cautious, emphasizing reform rather than declaring any current war as a definitive end times trigger.
So you said, although some see Iran's stance against Israel as tied to eschatology, what do you mean by that? What do some see as tied to eschatology?
Some analysts note that some Shia Muslims, particularly in Twelver Islam, believe in the return of the 12th Imam, Muhammad al-Mahdi, who will appear at the end of time to establish justice. While some analysts note that Iran's anti-Israel stance aligns with these eschatological themes, seeing regional conflict as part of the signs before the Radhi's return, no major Shia clerical body officially declares any current war as a prophetic trigger. Instead, most Shia scholars emphasize patience and moral reform rather than seeing wars as definitive end times events.
Looked like that it came off.
Yeah, I took it down. I figured that we were good to go on that. It didn't really answer any more questions about the Islamic faith. Um, so Rich, you're back.
Yeah.
I hope
What's going
everyone
on?
found that. I hope everyone found that interview interesting. Rich, what do you think, buddy?
No, I was listening in while I was getting situated, getting ready. Seemed pretty interesting. I think ChatGPT is not always a very reliable source. You can usually pick it apart a little bit. It has this like base narrative that it has. It's like coded in, especially Gronk. Gronk, as of recently, has been terrible. It's just awful. I mean, I'm talking to it about just a couple of things about World War II, the 6 Day War, stuff like that, and it's just getting stuff wrong because it has this built-in technology, this built-in narrative. So it's super interesting. But you could definitely talk to it, pick it apart. It's super interesting to talk to AI, especially about the SAVE Act, because you can really prove it wrong because it really defends the Democratic talking points a lot. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought a couple good things that came out of that interview was definitely just pointing out how Zionists, evangelical Christians, and dispensationalists, uh, actually, ChatGPT confirmed what I said, that they are accelerationists. They're literally doing things on Earth that they think will fulfill prophecy so that they could accelerate the return of the antichrist, so that while we need the antichrist, because the antichrist has to come before the return of Jesus, so let's build a temple and literally tempt God and trigger him to bring down the antichrist so that we can bring back Jesus. The whole thing is ridiculous, but ChatGPT did say that, and I thought that was a good takeaway from that interview. But
Yeah, well, and I'm not one to judge. I'm not going to be the one who is judging on Judgment Day. Obviously, it's a co-belief between Muslims and Christians that Jesus Christ will be the one to judge. But in my own opinion, I think these evangelical Christians, these Zionists, no matter if they're Jewish or Christian, these people that want to do this and they are testing God, I don't think that they are going to end up in heaven just off of the base fact that you're testing God. God says he says, "Don't test me, don't tempt me, don't ask to prove anything because it's God.
yep.
You don't do that." There's so many different stories in the Bible that says, "Do not tempt God." I mean, you look at
Jesus.
temptation. A perfect one was when Jesus was getting tempted by the devil. 40 days, 40 nights. He didn't eat or drink any water, any food. He didn't do it. It said, the devil said, "Create these stones into bread and eat of it." And he said, "Don't test me. Don't tempt me." Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but this is not good. You do not want to test God. Obviously, another story would be in Genesis. They were building up, trying to go to the heavens, and then God cast them off to different lands and different languages. So there's multiple stories in the Bible of not testing God. The best thing to do is just get right with your faith.
Yep. Literally, when Jesus was in the desert being tempted by the devil said he took him to the pinnacle, the highest point of Jerusalem, and he said, "Throw yourself down." The Bible says that God will not allow a hair on your head to be harmed. And Jesus said, the Bible also says you should not tempt the Lord your God. Um, and I think when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And this is probably the stupidest game that you can play. And triggering the Antichrist to come back to Earth is probably the stupidest prize that you can win. But they're playing this game. So, Rich, the last 3 days, I kind of touched on it. The Strait of Hormuz being closed, Ali Khamenei, his son, being killed now, the new supreme leader of Iran being killed, and just everything else that's unfolded since our last show. And I know that you've been
Wait, are you
dying.
saying Are you saying that the second son was killed? The second eldest?
The first, so it was Ali Khamenei first,
Yep.
that got killed initially. Then Mojtaba or whatever
Okay.
Khamenei, the son of the first supreme leader. Now he got voted in to be the supreme leader, right? And
Yeah.
then reports are that he was killed
Today? Did this happen today?
yesterday.
Wow. Wow, I didn't even know that. But I mean, I think we said this the other day in our show, episode 26. We said it's a bad look. It's a bad move making a new supreme leader, a new Ayatollah, because I mean, you're just putting them with a massive target on their head. And obviously, this Trump administration, and well, to be frank, the Israel regime as well, is not going to let a regime go in that they don't approve of. So I think it was a terrible move in the first place. I don't think it was very smart on their behalf. And, you know, it's just something that maybe they needed a leader. Maybe they just were thinking, we need a leader. Let's vote him in. But yeah, not a good thing for them. And that's news to me. So that's very
Did you
interesting.
hear? Did you hear what Trump said about Israel? He said that basically he was alluding to the fact that Israel killed all the negotiators. So Trump said this war is going to go on for indefinitely until Iran completely surrenders, and we would deal with Iran, but all the negotiators that I like dealing with are dead. So basically, I think that the Venezuela conflict boosted Trump's confidence, and then they went into this Iran situation, and they expected a different result. And I think that the leaders that the Trump administration thought were going to lead the revolution, the citizens were going to rise up, there was going to be these new leaders. I think that Israel literally killed them all, and destroyed the whole plan.
Yeah. Well,
To a
yes,
certain
I
extent.
think you're right on that. And I also think that this whole Iranian conflict, when you go back to last June and when we bombed Fordo, we ended up dropping 14 bunker busters on Fordo and other sites, getting rid of their nuclear facilities, allegedly. That happened because, I mean, this is coming from an ex-CIA agent. They said that Israel threatened to use a nuclear bomb. So, I mean, most likely this was in negotiations. There's rumors that Benjamin Netanyahu is making his 8th visit sometime this month. This administration is very tied into the pro-Zionist regime in Israel. You know, obviously there's a guy, Jared Kushner. He's married to Ivanka Trump. He is a Zionist. He's in his ear. Steve Witkoff. You see an evangelical like Pete Hegseth. He wants to put boots on the ground. My opinion on Pete Hegseth, I've talked so many times over the past 2 months of our shows. I loved Pete Hegseth. No more. The fact that he wants to put boots on the ground in this climate, he wants to get us in another regime change war, because as soon as boots go on the ground, we're not leaving for another at least a year. I mean, most likely 20. You look at what happened in Afghanistan. We had a regime change war, boots on the ground in Iraq, because they took over Kuwait, and that was our chance to go in and kill their leader. This was a terrible thing. We killed 1 million Iraqis, and you would think that we learned. You would think that we learned our lesson, but clearly we did not. Clearly we didn't learn our lesson, because you look at a guy like Donald Trump. He was the peace president. That's what he said. All of 2025, it was all about peace, peace, peace. I'm making peace. And I don't know if it's just he couldn't make peace with Russia, Ukraine, but most likely there's bigger threats. You know, when someone's talking with, as he says, the N-word, and the N-word would be nuclear weapons, that's a really, really big deal. Okay, so that's something that you really need to look into. Obviously, President Trump has claimed, and a lot of the presidents have claimed, but most recently, President Trump has claimed he is the biggest pro-Israel president ever. They have gone into the White House. They've celebrated it. You see on the White House front lawn, instead of a nativity scene, you see it's something for Kwanzaa, not Kwanzaa. Either way, you know what I'm talking about. They had the what's the 9
Menorah.
candlesticks? Yeah, then
Menorah.
what is it? Menorah. That's exactly what it is. They had a menorah. Sorry, I'm blanking. But yeah, they had a menorah instead of a nativity scene. This country, like it or not, was built off of Christian values, and we need to go back to that. Christian values doesn't mean everyone has to be Christian either. I like the separation of church and state. When there's not a separation of church and state, then there's corruption. People corrupt everything. There has to be a separation of church and state. But I do disagree with just having this almost atheist type of like no religion country that we have. We were built on Christian values, and now you see an influx of the religion of Islam. You see obviously Judaism is very prevalent in the country, but I think you should have the right to practice whatever religion you want. That's what makes America so great. But we are built off of Christian values, which Christian values are freedom of religion. It's that simple. So we need to go back to that. We need to go back and it's hard for me to say something about like putting prayer back into schools. But that maybe you look back, and when we were doing that and our country was a lot better and we were in a lot better of a place, it seems like when we took away God from the country, we filled it with something else, and everything that we filled it with have been super demonic, super evil. And quite frankly, we're going closer and closer to the end times. And just like you said, it's at a rapid rate because of these evangelical Christians and these Zionists. And it's not just them. On the other side, it's these to be frank, it's the radical Islam. It's both sides. So it's
all three.
evangelical. It's evangelical Christians, Zionist Jews, Zionist Christians, and radical Islam. So it's all of the religions, all of the Abrahamic religions.
That's what I was trying to get out of ChatGPT, is that all three religions believe that this is end times related. Even there's one point. So Jesus died on the cross right near the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which used to be the site of the Temple of David. So all three of those things are holy sites within a very small proximity of each other. And these are holy sites where the end times are supposed to take place. So it's literally a pinpoint in Israel that is the center focal point of all. It's eschatology, is the study of the end times. All these eschatological events that are either happening by default or just generic, organically, or these end time events that are being accelerated by these groups that we mentioned. Mm-hmm. So I want to start with this video, Rich, and I don't know if you've seen it, but this is J.D. Vance talking about creating a new world order. And this is an older video, but basically, okay, so there was the New World Order back in the day where we had the petrodollar, and the U.S. Was the police force of the world, backed by the UN and all these things. So that was the old New World Order, globalism, okay? Then China double-crossed us. There was another New World Order. That's the one that Biden was referring to, where China was having the great Chinese century and all this stuff. And a lot of, like we see Mark Carney, Joe Biden, a lot of Western leaders were selling out to China for their New World Order. Well, now J.D. Vance is talking about another New World Order, but this would be the American New World Order, where I think Venezuela, Iran, all these conflicts are building us to be in control of global politics and what happens and all that stuff. So I wanted to play this video, just a short clip. of him talking about the New World Order.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly think that this war with Iran could very well be the end of the American empire. I mean, we are so deep. This is really bad, really close to World War III, if not already in it. So this is really important to pay attention to.
Trump doing?
Culturally in Europe, what's their crackdowns on free speech? And they just look less and less like we do.
Yeah.
And there's a real question about whether there's a massive shift happening now in terms of world alliances long term.
Well, it's definitely, I think, a new world order. I think the president has sought to it. There's a new world order in trade. There's a new world order in globalization and the way that we invest in our economy versus, foreign supply chains. There's a new world order, and that the president is willing to shake up some old alliance structures. I mean, NATO, I think, is much different because of the president's leadership than it was 10 years ago. It was sort of coasting. It was effectively a protectorate of the United States of America. Obviously, you saw what happened in Venezuela. So, yeah, the president is putting a stamp on world history, but fundamentally in an America first way. Like
Let's listen to that.
So, one thing that you said earlier, Rich, about the separation of church and state and all these things, ever since we've been allies with Israel, we've gotten into wars on their behalf, and it's generally a Republican who starts these wars, historically speaking. So the Republican starts the war, then the Democrats come in, and they accept all the refugees from the war. So we've had a bunch of Islamic people who went through wars against the United States come into the United States. There's a large Jewish contingency, and now essentially, in effect, we have imported this conflict into the United States.
Yep.
At the same time that we're being sold out to China. So I could see how we're trying to set up a new world order for America, or whatever they want to say, whether it's the Don Roe doctrine or however you want to phrase it. But
Yeah,
all this is going on as we import this problem.
Yep. No, you're 100% right. This is exactly how when you're a golden calf like America is. You're the number one superpower in the world, just like we were and we are for now. It's just something that you need to look into when you have a group of people, and a group of people that are oh, there we go. If you have a group of people that are, and for instance, let's just use APAC, but also there's so many different lobbying groups. They're just one that really is like the strongest and the most potent. But all of these lobbying groups that are basically always in power. I mean, they're almost always in power, especially APAC. That's just one of the ones that I can think of, for example. But there's so many different lobbies, so many different special interests that you could look into. It's a constant thing where the person in power, the person in charge, in quotations, obviously, the president, is taking money from the same person. So realistically, is Republican and Democrat really that big of a difference? On face value, it is. Like, one will support, obviously, you look into pro LGBT laws, okay? One will do that. One will say, okay, well, we're going to get rid of men and women's sports, and we're going to try to pass this SAVE Act that's not going to pass because of a filibuster. So they're basically the same thing, and that's why in my political cycle I created, every president that we get, usually it gets worse and worse and worse. And you wonder why that is. Well, like you said, the Republicans will go in and they'll do regime change and they'll destroy these countries. But then the Democrat gets in because, wow, the Republicans sucked. Let's vote Democrat. The Democrat wins. Let's import all these people. And then the Democrats start to suck, and the people go, wow, the Democrats suck. Let's vote in a Republican. And then the Republican gets in. And then he's like, okay, well, we're getting rid of all of these people. We're going to deport them all. And then you get 600,000 deportations. And then you get a regime change war again. And then he gets, and this is a prediction, impeached, or some certain like, even if it's 2028, at this pace, the Republicans aren't going to win. Even though I think there's more right-leaning people in the country than left, because the left has gone so far left, like it's not even common sense at this point. But
Well,
there's just like it. What were you going to say?
no, I was just going to say that to add to what you're saying, the left went so far left that the right gained all this moral high ground. So what happens when you have a populist movement and the people start expecting accountability, action to be taken, and all these things? Well, the government wants to give you a problem and then say that the solution to that problem is more government. That way they can build up themselves power. So with this populist movement going on, you can't have that if you want your people to be docile and easily controllable. So what you do is you split the Republican Party in half and fracture the base and confuse the situation. Like you could say, oh, all these right wingers are war hawks and they all want to go to war against Iran. Well, now you just discredited me because I'm not a war hawk, but I voted Republican. The whole thing is meant to confuse, divide, and get us back under the thumb of this government, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And to go back to what you're saying, these people want to add more government. So then you look like, just for example, a company like Palantir, all of this AI stuff that they're using for military purposes. If we get a president in that, maybe has connections to Palantir, there's a very good chance that we could become a security state, just like how China is. And you don't want cameras on every street corner with AI using facial recognition that they have with our Life Touch photos. We know that they have every photo of us growing up until we graduate. Like they have this. You want to talk about another thing? Here's a perfect example. How do you open your phone? Face ID. They already have this. They already have the technology, facial recognition. They know who you are off of your face, your facial structure. It's all in the pudding. Yeah. The one thing that we're missing is the president to add it. And I don't think it's going to be Trump, but I think that this 2028 election, very crucial, very crucial.
And right now they're implementing facial ID recognition at the borders, which tells you that not only do they have our facial IDs to say, hey, this guy's good, send him through, but they also must have Mexican people's face IDs to be able to differentiate who's who and implement this technology. They would have to have that ability to recognize everybody's face on the planet. So that's being implemented right now. That's pretty scary. Rich, well, you could go on if you want to. I was just gonna start pulling up a couple news clips.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, I will. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. There's a stink bug flying around my room. Yeah. So I think the 2028 election is crucial. Do I think JD Vance is going to get the nominee? No, I don't think so. What do I think is going to happen? Well, we've seen that this war is ridiculously unpopular. Everyone hates it, obviously. Trump has done a terrible job with framing it to the public. And now I think that we are going to, and by we, I mean the Republicans, even though I don't identify with this party, I think that they're going to lose the House. I think that they're going to lose the Senate. I think that they're going to impeach him, like they should, honestly. And I was talking about this with a couple different people. I was a big Trump supporter. Like since 2016, I would go on Omegle and talk about Trump and like debate liberals. Like I loved Trump. During this whole COVID time when Biden took over, and we thought that like that quite frankly shit was going to go down. That's just the only way I could put it. When we thought that was happening, I literally view Trump as a top 3 person, like on the earth. I thought he was going to save us. And he does a great job with propaganda. And that's all I can say with that. I think that there's a high chance that when he got shot, and I believe it was in June of 24, when he got shot, he got scared. I think he really did. And then that is very it's a very interesting idea, obviously, but I think that when he got shot, he sold us out. I think he got very intimidated. I think he got very scared. He sold us out, and you can really see a shift from everything that he was doing and framing from before and after. You see him
Yep.
make very big moves like immediately after he gets shot. You can even mention like the guy was in a BlackRock commercial that shot him. And then why do we have no information on the shooter? That's another thing like I just don't understand at all. But yeah, he got shot and then 2 days later announces JD Vance as his VP.
Well, yeah,
Weird.
And-
It's a weird thing.
and he also posted on Truth Social after he got shot that if anything happens to him, destroy Iran. Then we see him announce JD Vance at the CPAC meeting, and then it became all basically, I don't even know how to say it, but the CPAC meeting following that was a lot of Jewish propaganda, which wasn't a huge thing in the Republican Party in previous CPAC meetings. This was highlighted specifically that there was an importance with Republicans being related to the Jewish community. They trashed Tucker Carlson. There was a whole bunch of stuff, But,
and I think it's super interesting that now, like in the last 10 years, this group that's been the most hated in America has gone from the African Americans to now the Jewish, the Jewish faith. It's super interesting. Now no one talks about exactly with quotations. No one talks about racism towards African Americans anymore. I wonder why. Is it because it doesn't fit a narrative? It's super interesting because I can only speak off of my personal experiences. I don't care what religion or race someone is. I'm going to treat them like a human being because that's what Jesus called us to do. What type of Christian would I be if I went to someone and treated them differently because of their race or religion? You know what I mean? Like it's a terrible thing to do. And
yeah,
it's just not something that we do.
You could tell them about Jesus, but you judge a tree by its fruit, and then you let Jesus judge the heart. That's Christianity. Rich, we're going on an hour. You want to get into just some of the meat and potatoes of some of these topics?
Yeah, let's hit it real quick. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So first things first. Mo Tajaba, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, was killed. That's our first article here. And it was obvious. Everyone could see this coming.
I mean, this is another one of our predictions. Obviously, this is one that everyone knew about, but another one of the predictions that we have put out there into the world have come true. It's sad. It's sad that this has had to happen. Regime change is terrible, but it's out there, and that's exactly why you need to watch this show. I mean, we are giving you the news, honestly, ideally before it happens.
Yep. So that happened, and it was pretty predictable. The Trump administration doesn't want to work with any of the previous leaders or anybody too closely associated with the IRGC. And we could have called that one.
Also, Caroline Levitt, I was watching her presser today. She said that absolute surrender doesn't actually mean they have to say it. It's just what the I guess President Trump's
Oh yeah.
administration decides. But realistically, that's just her being very smart with her words. I do like her a lot, actually. I think she's very smart with her words and basically saying exactly what we were thinking. Like, it doesn't mean they have to like absolutely surrender like Nazi Germany had to. It just means that, it's up to the president's uh it's up to his views. If he views that they have, which is basically, it's pretty smart actually from President Trump's point of view, just to put that out there, because that's something, I guess, positive in a world of negatives that he's done.
Well, Trump's looking for an off ramp. I
Mhm.
think that here, let me put this article up. I think that Trump's looking for an off ramp because this war didn't go the way that he wanted to. Now, Carolyn Levitt did a presser yesterday where she said drafting U.S. citizens is not off the table because the Trump administration needs to keep all their options open. So it's smart in a way to say this, because if you're looking for an off ramp, you could just declare victory and get out of the Middle East and end this conflict before it happens. But that doesn't mean that we won the war, because basically what's happened is, and you could see this article, U.S. intel assessment before the war said an assault on Iran was unlikely to topple the regime. And Trump got this assessment. He actually ordered the assessment, and 16 different agencies put together a report outlining why going into Iran was a bad idea. Now, Donald Trump ignored that and went into Iran anyway, and it has turned out to be not so good of an idea. And now the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and we cannot get it open militarily. We cannot, in my opinion, I don't think that we're going to successfully take the shores of the Strait of Hormuz from Iran. That would require a force way bigger than D-Day. This is mountains. This is entrenched military installations hidden in mountains all across the Strait of Hormuz that, if we wanted to go in, it would be a gigantic quagmire. So I think Trump's looking for off ramps, and he's going to say things like that, like, well, we successfully destroyed a large portion of their hypersonic missile supply, and we killed their supreme leader. So now Iranians, rise up and take back your government, and we won, and thank you. God bless America, and God bless our troops. He's going to say something like that, pull out, and you know what's going to happen is he's going to pull out because he doesn't want this black mark on his legacy, and we're going to leave Israel screwed over there, and we're going to leave the Gulf states screwed over there, and is that a bad thing? Maybe not. I don't know. But
well,
that's
and that's
everyone.
the thing. I mean, I guess my views are very similar, differ slightly. I'm young enough. I'm young enough where I don't remember. Oh, here, let me reframe that. I'm young enough where I wasn't born for 9/11 or the 6-Day War, but I'm old enough to remember when we attacked Fordo and we took Mossad intelligence over CIA intelligence, okay? So obviously with that claim that Will just put up on the screen, it makes sense why 16 different studies, 16 different studies come out and say that it's not going to work. Regime change will not work. But I'm sure Mossad intelligence told him, yes, it will. I mean, our intelligence is the best in the world. We have the best intelligence in the world. It's going to work. Trust us. And they trusted them again. And look where we're at. We've literally seen a skyrocket from day 0 of the war, the first strikes, to now, I believe, day 11 of the war. And we've seen oil go all the way up to 115 per barrel. Right now, it's hanging around 90. It's not a good situation.
This article here is showing Trump's precious stock market that he was so worried about in the State of the Union address is down massively. And, this is affecting all the stock trades, not just the U.S. This is affecting our stock exchange, Britain's stock exchange, the Japanese stock exchange, and it's hitting everyone pretty hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you know anything about the market, you know it doesn't like uncertainty. That's why a perfect time to buy last year would have been April 1st, or I believe April 2nd. I don't think he wanted to do April Fool's Day. So April 2nd. And if you don't remember what that was Liberation Day. Liberation Day was a mass tariff against the entire world, basically a strategic way to get new trade deals. And, a lot of it worked. A lot of it didn't, when you actually look into it. But most of it did. Most of it was good that we got new trade deals, used that American leverage, but it hindered our relations with a lot of allies, which is not good. When you look, who are our real allies, who are the people that actually have our best interest in heart, which is not many people nowadays, if any. I think the UK is one of them. That's like it, though. I mean, the Netherlands are helping us out in war, which I appreciate. That great little country, the Netherlands. I love the Netherlands. But then you look at a country like Spain. They don't even pay their 5% to NATO. They should be kicked. No one's gonna attack Spain. Who's gonna attack Spain? Morocco. They should be literally threatened to get kicked from NATO, or they should be gone. NATO in itself, I don't really understand it. A lot of people want to still fearmonger and talk about World War II, but, I disagree. I don't think that we should be that scared of Russia, but I digress.
Oh, I wanted to play this clip. This is just funny because it's Trump admitting that we struck Iran on Israel's behalf.
I think we have great support, and I think if we didn't do it first, they would have done it to Israel and give us a shot if that was possible.
It's not. It's not possible.
Fuck Israel.
Well, that was unintended, but funny. And,
yeah, no. I agree, man.
That was funny. So Trump's saying that. Okay, so this relates to what you were saying about Trump, leaving his options open and trying to say that we're gonna pull out of Iran and declare victory and all that stuff. Iran is also saying that they will determine when the war ends, not the U.S., because Iran is feeling pretty empowered right now by the fact that they've got the whole world in shambles. They've got the U.S. politics scrambling. They've got the world in shambles. Their plan didn't work out the way that it wanted to. Tel Aviv is getting hammered with bombs right now, and there's reports that Netanyahu is begging Trump to somehow get us out of this. He's the one that got us into this. Now he's begging them to get us out of it. There's also reports that twice now Donald Trump has asked for a ceasefire, and Iran didn't even respond to them asking. Obviously, they probably don't want to negotiate with us because every time you negotiate with us, we engage in getting these people into one location and then bombing that location.
And who are we going to negotiate with? We killed all the negotiators. Like, there's no one to negotiate with left.
So Iran is saying that they're going to determine when the war ends, which, they do kind of hold a lot of the cards here.
No, they do. That's why I don't think that we're necessarily winning the war. I don't know what happened there. We're not necessarily winning the war. As I talked to with one of my teachers, very educated guy, He's one of those teachers that really don't let you know his political beliefs, but I've talked to him a lot. I kind of understand his wavelength. He says we're getting hammered, and I agree with him. When you look economically, we're using $1 million Patriot missiles to shoot down $10,000 drones. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that math equation. We're losing the war. Even if we're technically winning, we're losing the war. Look at our gas prices. We're getting killed. The American citizens are getting killed. The crude oil went from 60 to 115. That's nearly doubled in 10 days. Like, obviously, it's at 90 right now. And Trump said that we're going to start to kick into our natural reserves, which a lot of that has been shredded because of World War II. But I mean, this is just great. Yeah, the situation that we have put ourselves in is awesome. It's really sad. It really is sad, and we've lost 7 lives too many. 7 servicemen, and then there's around Caroline Levitt said around 150 servicemen that have been injured. That's just terrible.
Yeah. Definitely got ourselves into a bad predicament here. And what were you saying about the oil prices?
Oh yeah, crude oil.
Yeah, our crew, or they hold a lot of the cards. We are bombing their cheap little drones and wasting tons of money, and those missiles aren't easy to produce. We have a Lockheed Martin factory, up the road, and we have all these things, but it takes a long time to rebuild those missiles or to build new ones, and we're not going to be able to produce them fast enough to keep up with the pace that this war's going. Basically, essentially, Iran could take 1970s missiles that Russia gave them from their overflow stockpile from the Cold War, and they can launch a bunch of them at Israel, and Israel has to use $1 million Patriot missiles to knock those little tinker toys out of the sky. And then once they're out, then Iran could just hammer Israel with ballistic missiles, and they have some stockpiles there, and you're not going to find them because they're buried in the sand, and they're buried in caves in the ground that we might have intelligence from 10 years ago on the locations of them, but they probably moved them. Iran is savvy. For sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And, we got insider information on these Patriot missiles. This was up in debate where we didn't really understand what this meant. But now that we have been talking, and we talked to this person, specifically, I talked to him in Florida. It actually makes sense. So this guy builds missiles for a living, okay? He builds missiles for a living. And he said that we used up 25% of our Patriot missiles in the 12-day war, and that they are like freaking out. They're trying to go, and they're trying to make sure that we have enough. But as Will said, they take a lot of money, and they take a lot of time to build. We went through 25% of our Patriot missiles in just the 12-day war. We are very close to 12 days already. Most likely, our whole total supply, we could probably last, give or take, a month more. Like, after a month, their new ballistic missiles, which I'm sure Iran knows about, they will be blasting Tel Aviv. We will have no more missiles. We have no more Patriot missiles. We will not be able to intercept any of their missiles, which, if that happens, that's terrible for Tel Aviv and Israel. They will be getting pounded. And it's also terrible for all of the U.S. bases in the Middle East, like in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Iraq, all of those places. Not good scenarios at all. So we need to pull out of this whole thing in under a month, or else we're going to be absolutely screwed. And specifically, Israel will be screwed.
Yep. So, like we said, Trump got a national intelligence briefing from 16 agencies, government agencies, that said that the attack of Iran was a bad idea. So that's just that alone based on us versus them. then I'm pretty sure probably Israeli intelligence said, well, hey, you know, there's always the Kurds. There's always the Kurds up there that, you know, don't like the regime in Iran. So what we'll do is we'll kill Khomeini. We'll bomb all of these different sites. We'll create a bunch of chaos. Hopefully the regime topples. Hopefully the Kurds come in and liberate the people, and the people rise up and overtake the government. That was our plan. It was supposed to be probably a 3-day thing where we topple the regime. Well, even the Kurds said that they're not gonna join into these efforts. Here it is, Trump. So Trump is trying to frame it and say that the Kurds won't be necessary, is what the article is saying here. But
No, but it's actually that the Kurds decline the opportunity. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to be fighting on behalf of Israel and Iran, or Israel and the
Yep.
United States.
That's exactly the point I was going to make.
Exactly. And I don't blame them either, because when you look at what we did to them, we literally killed 1 million Iraqis. Why would they help us?
Yep. I'm pulling up another article here, and this article is saying that our Gulf allies are mad that we didn't alert them that we were going to do this in Iran, and they have been pounded by Iran with missiles. Which some of that there is a little bit of fog of war going on with these strikes. So Israel could be trying to do false flags in certain areas or whatever. But for the most part, the Gulf states got hammered by this attack. And apparently, according to this article, they're mad at Trump because he didn't tip them off that Israel was going to do this. Gulf allies disappointed U.S. didn't notify about Iran attacks and ignored their warnings. So apparently, the Gulf states tried to warn Trump that it was a bad idea. The intelligence agencies tried to warn Trump that it was a bad idea. And I'm not sure what would drive him to ignore all that, but Israel really wanted it done. And I hope that they're getting everything that they wanted from this, because, you know, you could have been a blind person and saw that this was a horrible, horrible, horrible endeavor that we're embarking in. We're spending American blood, American treasure, and American resources over there for absolutely nothing. And there might not be any gain to be had from this conflict. This might be a complete wash on the side of the United States. And Iran is actually saying, hey, we get to tell you when the war ends now because you messed with us and you planned for a 48-hour operation. Well, guess what? We planned for a long-term war. We hold the cards. We are closing the Strait of Hormuz. And guess what? The United States is going to have to pay essentially a toll now. If you want anything shipped through the Strait of Hormuz, the United States is going to have to pay a toll until they pay back the damage that they've done to Iran. So now Iran is going to dangle this over our heads, and our products are going to start costing more money.
This is an absolute mess. The only way I can understand or foresee why we did this is a compromised administration. You know, as a right winger, you know, it's hard to admit this, but I think we could very well be better off with a an impeachment. I don't want to say it, but it's getting to the point. You know, Venezuela, yeah. I could get behind. Cuba, I could get behind. Greenland, I can get behind. That is our hemisphere, our territory. A regime change on behalf of Israel in the Middle East, I cannot get behind. and I wasn't alive. I was alive for 20 days, 40 days of Bush's administration, okay? Like 40 days or whatever it was. I guarantee if I was, I can't guarantee that, but most likely if I was around back then, I would not have been pro neoconservatism just like I am currently. I hate this. The neocons and this whole idea is terrible. We got to get rid of this. And also, this administration acts like they're far right. No, they're center right at best. Like, this is terrible.
Right. I want to play this clip because while we're talking about neocons, and also to relate to my ChatGPT interview that I did earlier, this is a sitting member of Congress, I believe, saying that it's our biblical responsibility to go help Israel. So here it is.
Confusing.
You are?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there are several good reasons for us to take out Iran's nuclear capabilities. First of all, because they're willing to use it.
There was an Iran nuclear deal signed in 2015.
Yeah, thank God we got out of that. And remember, he agreed to a deal that allowed Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
No, they didn't.
Thank God we
No.
intervened in that. And they were on their way to doing it.
No, they weren't. And,
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were licensed to have to enrich to a level that would allow a nuclear weapon.
No, they weren't.
Insane.
The U.S. Republicans kept saying they almost have a nuclear weapon. They almost have a nuclear weapon. It's not true. They don't have a nuclear weapon. And I have one question.
Thank goodness they don't. And I
Does
think it's a
Israel
good
have
idea.
nuclear weapons?
Listen, the United States and Israel are ironclad partners. We need them in the Middle East. We need them to be strong. We have a biblical responsibility to them as well as an allied responsibility.
Oh!
Israel, we should never sever that relationship, particularly
There it
to
is.
the benefit of
Notice
others
he didn't answer
like
the question.
Well,
Is
If
that your,
Israel has
office?
nukes.
Is that the flag right there?
This guy
Stop
says he
using
had a-
theology to back your political statements. It doesn't work. I use theology to back my political statements, but I have reasoning that doesn't involve theology. Like my political beliefs are due and off of the theology, and actually that's a Charlie Kirk quote, to be honest, but I agree full-heartedly. Everything I believe politically, I can back politically. I don't use theology. We're not, when they say whoever is Israel will be blessed, Israel will be blessed. Israel is the followers of Christ. They're not talking about, like, this is ridiculous. They're not talking about the modern state of Israel that was created in 1948 thanks to the the entire end of
The
World War II.
Rothschilds.
Yeah, the
and the
Rothschilds
Rockefellers.
and thankfully Great Britain and the United States and all of that. That's not talking about that Israel. It's talking about the followers of Jesus Christ, which is actually the Gentiles. How ironic is that? The Goyim are the ones that is considered Israel in the Bible. Bombshell. Wow. Sorry, I'm getting a little crazy because I'm on 2%, so I'm going to have to get off here. But that's honestly, like,
No.
everything I said is 100% true there.
You're okay, and I kind of wanted to wrap up here. Anything you want to say on the way out?
I got one thing. Christ is king. Get good with God. And like and subscribe. Will, have a heck of a show, brother.
Thanks, brother.
All right, see ya.
Okay, so like Richard said, Christ is king. America is it's our life raft. We're literally on this life raft, and people on the life raft, meaning politicians, our thought leaders in this country are literally. Hold on, because I have to give this as an example. We are on this life raft that's called the United States of America, right? Imagine this. You're sitting there, me and Richard are sitting there, trying to row back to shore, thinking like, okay, this is our only hope to get back to, to get our feet on the ground and have a good life over here. And then you turn around and you just see someone literally with a knife going and poking holes in the life raft that we're all on. And it's pretty despicable, the way that they're selling us out, the way that everything's going. I agree with Richard. We might need an impeachment. If Trump doesn't want to get rid of Bondi, wants to take us into wars, doesn't want to do deportations, doesn't want to do anything that he promised on the campaign trail, then he should be gone. It's a shame because this movement, we needed a champion. We needed a David to go out and kill the Goliath of globalism and of Chinese takeover of this country. And it hasn't happened. And realistically, people are like, oh, well, I kind of like Rubio. Oh, well, I kind of like Vance. What do you think about a Vance Rubio ticket for 2028? I say no. I say that nobody vote for a name that you've ever heard before. If anybody's been in government, don't vote for them next election. Nick Fuentes was out there saying, we got to vote Democrat to punish the Republicans because they didn't do what we wanted. No, we need to vote in a whole new class of politicians into this country and a whole new class of politicians that are America first. That is and should be our main focus. And also the truth. Okay. So that's all I got. Now it goes God, family, country. Put God first, put your family first. In these times right now, there's this oil shortage, which is going to mean a shortage of plastics and a shortage of lubricants and a shortage of oil and gas and all these other things. But it's also going to mean a shortage of fertilizer, which could potentially cause a food shortage come the fall time with everything that's going on. There's a lot that could spiral out from this conflict, and the shock waves of it will be felt for a long time, depending on how we handle this. So definitely a big deal. So we said God first, get right with Jesus, get right with God, know your Bible, start living according to it. They say be Christ-like in your actions, but people don't know what that means. Jesus said, turn the other cheek, right? That doesn't mean that if someone's yelling at you, just turn the other cheek and forget about it. That means that Jesus, what he was saying is, if they slap you in the face because of your belief, turn the other cheek and let him hit you in this side. So be Christ-like in your actions. Call out evil, evangelize to people, spread the word of God. God, then family. Taking care of your family means stacking up on things like bullets. Bullets will be a shortage because of the sulfur shortage, because sulfur is a byproduct of the oil production process. So bullets will be a problem. Fertilizer will be a problem. Food could potentially be a problem. Gas could potentially be a problem. And those are like 4 of the main things that you would need in a fall of government type of scenario. And then country would be the third priority on the list. And that means taking back our institutions, taking back our leadership, taking back the narrative, taking back the moral high ground, and really putting in the leaders that we require right now during these times. Super important thing. And I'm going to put this up for the end of our show here. Christ is King. Christ is King of kings. Christ is the King of the universe. And without the foundation in Jesus Christ, you really aren't going to be able to have the discernment to see these things clearly. So read your Bible and know that Jesus said in this Bible verse, Jesus said, but that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Jesus said that nobody knows when the end is going to come. So get your soul right with God, like the workers in the field. When the landlord or the master comes home, and he comes home and he sees one worker working diligently and the other one being lazy, he promotes the one that was working. So do the work right now while you still can, or not while you still can, because I'm not trying to make this an end times thing myself, like we did with the ChatGPT interview, but you don't know when the master's gonna come back, so you should continue to work diligently all your life, in hopes that you can prepare yourself to be seen as a blameless sacrifice, or a blameless person by God, and that He will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," and accept you into His kingdom. So that's all I have for you tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and thank you for watching.